Did you guys see the size of that chicken? Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today, let's take a little look at the Executive Replicas / LooseCollector heavy metal Taarna and Avis. And yes, the lighting is a little bit different. I'm trying different angles, less glare. I don't know. I really don't know what I was doing. But first, I wanted to address this. Yes, this is loose and kind of angled oddly in the package. That's because Dave, LooseCollector, he got this one from the factory and opened it up. I don't know if this was a test of some kind, final approval, whatever, but he sent this one, and then he says that the full shipment is on its way to the U.S. distribution center right now. Looking at the package, fairly simple. It's just black. It has the Taarna graphic right here, heavy metal Taarna. You see most of what comes in the package. On the side, some heavy metal artwork. On the back, even if you've never seen heavy metal, you recognize this graphic. Some background, the features of the figure. On the other side, another piece of artwork of Taarna and Avis. On the top, just Taarna, warning, choking hazard. Don't put it in your mouth. On the bottom, big old barcode. Let's get this open. See what's going on here. You like how I'm magician? Let's see what's going on here. Couple of things before we get into it. The hairpiece in the package, you may have noticed, it was up and off to the side a little bit. That's because it's removable and swappable, which we'll look at here in a second. In regular position, put it all the way down on the peg. It looks good. Also going to use this to assemble Avis, or the big naked turkey. The tail fins are shaped like an L. It has a kick right there. So you can't put this one over here or like this. It only goes in one position. So it's robo-proof. That one in there. And then ball joint, very tight. But once you hit that point, it goes in. You can feel it pop. It's solid. There we go. See? I went back and rewatched some scenes on YouTube earlier, and I guess I'd forgotten that this sounds like Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit. And because I watched some clips earlier, it's been a while since I've seen that. Well, it's been quite a few years since I saw the movie. Now that it's fresher on my mind, I look at this figure and the proportions, the blockiness, it totally works. She's got the broad shoulders, the thick thighs, the clothing that somehow magically stays in place. The sculpt work is just fantastic. It's mostly a blank body, just with the proper parts and bits and bobs, but then on top of that, like this shoulder armor with the texture to it and a little roughness. It's been in battle. The glove with the cuff coming up and over, that is part of the forearm sculpt. That's not an overlay. The knee pads with something coming up to the thigh, and then some kind of fabric, I guess, hanging down below the legs, down over the shoe? Boot. And again, with the texture just completely working. Some things kind of get lost in the blackness of the costume, like this belt. Didn't even notice until you get some light on it. These little gold clasps, which being painted makes me so happy, because that runs up to a strap running around the torso, and even the buckles up there are painted. Focus. The gold band on the left is sculpted on. It's the same for the right. That acts more like a strap for the shoulder pad. And speaking of paint, the shade work, down in the crevices is a little bit darker than the lighter highlights. Then it gets darker down here at the bottom of the legs where, the light would shine from here. The black paint edges, where it goes from costume to skin tone, if you get super close, it looks a little rough. But at normal distance, standing on the shelf in normal lighting, yeah, it looks fairly clean. Not as noticeable here, but you get to right here, you can see a little bit of bleed, a little bit of... There's also a scratch right there that I can clean up pretty easy. It's black, so just boop. Then right here, it looks like the red from the hand is kind of rubbed off where it was in the package, maybe. I wonder if that'll... Oh, yeah, there's a little. Do some scratch and get that off there. And then on the skin tones, I think the base plastic is flesh, but then around edges, there's some red. And at first, I thought it was kind of odd. It looks kind of sunburned in places, but it also works within the confines of the artwork whenever you Google Taarna. Plus, it nicely ties everything together with the other red parts, the pads, the cloth, whatever. Then there is the head sculpt, the face itself. And look at this factory paint, the eyeshadow, the actual eyes themselves, so clean. I think this hairpiece was actually added after the original solicitation. It floats a bit above the body to give you some movement. Nice sculpt to the white hair with some gray thrown in to bring out the details a bit. Shadow the shading. Shading the shadow? Whatever. And then in the movie, the front itself was a darker gray, and that's emulated up bit here. I would have liked to seen a little darker, you know, more prominent. Then there is Avis, who is going to be kind of hard to get on camera here. Just a fantastic sculpt all over. There's texture to the wings, and it carries down to the skin itself. Just, it's rough all over. There's something to look at everywhere. Heavier wrinkles down on the feet with the large talons coming out to the wing. There's this running on the top. Underneath, it's smoother. Well, not texture-wise, but it doesn't have that kick in it. I don't know how Avis anatomy works. This strap running down and under the knapsack and some supplies, pouch. Oh, they're different side to side. That's cool. And those are attached back here to a strap running around the tail. And that's all part of the sculpt itself. Well, it may be separate, but it is glued down. There's some wear to the saddle, some highlights. And then these gold buckles are painted on top of that. Back here, the clasps on the pouches. There's some more highlighting. Then on the skin tones, oh, very nice darker shading running the edges and lower points. Just adds so much depth to it. Green, well, there's green here, but man, the eyes just poke out at you. Green base with a yellow mist to it. It's looking into your soul. Dave warned me that he scratched this side somehow. I don't know what he's been doing with his toys, but hey, that's his business. And he says that shouldn't be on the final product, so they should all look like this. LooseCollector also seems to be always looking for some way to hide articulation. I'm going to take this hairpiece off because it is a bit restrictive. There is a dumbbell joint at the neck. Up, that gives you down. Oh, so much tilt. Looking side to side with the hairpiece on. Up, down, side to side. Some tilt. Pin going out to the arm rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder goes up to there, and I wonder if the shoulder pad, yeah, the shoulder pad gets in the way. Bicep swivel right at the straps. Beautifully hidden. There's also some cutout on the upper arm for the single hinge elbow that gets you to here. Swivel at the wrist, hinge back and forth. Ball or dumbbell at the mid-torso, gets you some crunch, arc, tilt, rotation. Ball coming out to the hip, comes up to there. Bag, something gets in the way, but it doesn't get in the way of this. I keep fighting the urge to rotate here. The rotation is closer down to the knee. Double knee gets you all the way, boom. The sculpt does break a little bit for the ankle, but that's only to get some range to it. There's a hinge back, there's a hinge forward, and a forward-facing pin for rocker. For the chicken raptor, there is a ball joint at the neck. Can come up to there, go down a little, slight tilt, rotation side to side. The wings are on ball joints. You can rotate them all the way around, up a little, down, back, forward. Ball joint at the hip of the leg. You get some out, some in, and then it rotates around, but it's really sculpted to be somewhere between here and here, just because of how the body's molded in and how that cut in the upper leg is. But it is solid. Those big old feet and the tight joints, yeah, it is not falling over. It's the same for Taarna. Doesn't really have a problem standing up. For accessories, there is the hair coming off and the action hair goes on. And I say action because, well, obviously it's flowing in the wind off to the side, but it also comes off the body. That way you can get more movement all the way around. For hands, there's a set of relaxed hands. Those pop out pretty easy. And that gives you a set of grip hands for the weapon, but those are also hinged side to side. I think LooseCollector has said that from here, there will be sword-wielding hands with up and down hinge. I guess this was too far into production before that change was made. Notice the hook right here on the belt. That is for the sword sheath. And even there, the gold painted on the clip that goes on there. And there's even shading to the red. Out of the package, it is slightly bent, but I'm sure some heat can straighten that out. And that clips on really, really tight. Once it's on, you can rotate it a bit and it locks on even more if you want it going back here or something. A sheath, of course, needs a sword, and this looks just like the sword from the movie. Fairly simple, but nice gold color that, again, works into little bits of the costume. Putting Taarna on Avis, the saddle has a seat shape to it, so you essentially just put her on there. You put the grip hand on the bridle on the left if she's holding the sword, and just take the legs and kind of put it down. It doesn't lock on. There is some wobble, but she's not going to fall off just sitting on the shelf normally. And that looks about right for the cartoon. I wish the bird would look up a bit so you could have a more flying stance, but then the legs also don't straighten out to go out behind or anything like that. So not bad. She's jousting. Remember that old game? Size-wise, Taarna stands at about 6.5 to the top of her head, and then 6.25 to the top of the hair, which does make her larger than Marvel Legends, Scarlet Witch, or Rogue, but there's also heels involved, more appropriate with the high heels of Scarlet Witch and Black Cat. Taarna would be buffer than Wanda or Felicia, but also formidable against the standard Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper version 1 and the Marvel Legends comic book Black Panther, and looks fantastic next to the Executive Replicas Lady Death. And then the turkey mount stands at about 7¼ to the top of the fin. Wingspan of 14 inches. Beak to tail is also, well, a little under 7 inches. Here it is next to the Marvel Legends Black Widow motorcycle, the Star Wars Black Series Tauntaun, and the McFarlane Fortnite Icewing. Is that what this thing's called? So at the end of the day, if you're into heavy metal, I can't see you passing on this. While I didn't remember the slow motion action going on, it's still badass. It still holds up today. And to get something in plastic from that movie in my preferred scale with my preferred articulation scheme, hey, I cannot complain. Plus, I'm always down for a crazy looking creature, especially one as well done as this. But this makes me want villains. It makes me want the mutant leader most of all, with the so he can cut at Taarna and then she can turn it on him. Either way, this needs to be a display of some kind. We need other characters to go with her. Like I said back at the first, this should be shipping soon, so the wait is almost over. And oh, where am I going to put this now? I gotta find a place for it. If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus if you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. The more I mess around with it, the more I realize that the torso joint kind of picks up the slack where the hair keeps the head from moving. You know, to look up, you can arc her back a bit. To look down, she crunches, but it's still not as free as this hair.